Hi there, Karen Flaherty here from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today, we're going to be talking in the Human Design Weather about spirit and abundance, or as I call it, spiritual abundance, because they're really tied together. So it's an interesting take on how they come together, how spirituality and abundance come together. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Okay, so this week we got the sun in gate 55, which, as I mentioned, is spirit and abundance. And this started yesterday, February 18th, and kind of late in the day. And then it goes until February 4th, kind of the middle of the day. And the earth is in gate 59, which is called seduction and intimacy. So we've got the 55 coming off the solar plexus right here, and we've got the 59 coming off the sacral right here. To the right side of the sacral. And so we start the week with everything open on the chart. And and then on Tuesday, we've got both Venus and Mars moving into the gate 61. And so that'll create once again, the channel of awareness up in the head and Ajna. And that will, it is about holistic thinking. On the other hand, the Ajna is quite stubborn and rigid and will give everybody the idea that they have the right answer, right? So not too reassuring as we move into a period of tensions around the world. So, but that'll be defined for a few days because Venus and Mars don't last too long. So we've got the sun in gate 55, which I'm calling spiritual abundance. As you can see from the original I Ching, they called it abundance or spirit. It's where they say abundance is strictly a question of spirit. And so it's about trusting that the universe or God or whatever you believe will take care of us, right? That it's literally that spiritual abundance. You get the abundance as a result of being spiritual. And that's why I put them together, because I think they really do go together. I like to describe it, when I talk to my clients and they have this gate in their chart, I say it's all about health and wealth. And actually I used to say wealth, and now I'm saying more spirituality or abundance or prosperity, right? It's abundance. It's the air and the water and the sunlight that we have access to, right? All the time. Most of these things are free, right? The air and the water and the sunlight and the friends and family and food and wine and or whatever you drink, and all the good things in life, all the stuff that's really fun, that makes us feel whole, that makes us feel like we're alive, that makes us feel like we really belong on the planet or in the community or in the culture that we're part of, whatever that is. It's all about this spiritual abundance, this feeling of, it's almost like a camaraderie or a wholeness or a, really feeling like we belong. And that's all in this gate. And it's a beautiful gate from that perspective, but it is very also very emotional. In IHDS, the incarnation crosses this week are the crosses of the sleeping phoenix, which is a very, kind of spiritual thinking cross, also moods and spirit. And then it pairs with the gate 59, which is the gate of seduction and intimacy. And as I said, this comes off the right side of the sacral. It's part of the defense circuit. It's part of what has us actually want to be in relationship with other people. It's a very magnetic kind of energy. It's also I call it the spider's web. It's very encompassing. It's like somebody looks at you across the room or across the bar, and like you can't help but go over to that person or keep looking at that person. It's just like this kind of literal seduction. And so in the I Ching, it's called dispersion or sexuality. Dispersion, as we learned when we had the gate 59 in, is literally about how males basically help to populate the world. And the sexuality, of course, can go with either sex. And so it's the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. So literally that, just having the spider web, bringing people in, attracting people in, and then making sure that they, or at least trying to procreate. And the gene keys, dishonesty is the shadow, intimacy is the gift, and transparency is the CD. So when I said that this gene key 55 is rather deep, what I mean is that it really is at the crux of the gene keys Bible, if you will. Richard Rudd considers it to be the most important or one of the most important gene keys there are. And the just so you have an idea, that the gene key book, if you've ever seen it, is pretty thick. This gene key alone is 25 pages. So when I started to research it, I'm like, whoops, you need a little more time for this one. So here, the shadow is victimization, the gift is freedom, and the CD is freedom. And that's not that's redundant, yes, but not a mistake. Both the gift and the CD are about freedom. And so while it's kind of deep, and, as I said, he goes on and on about how we as a civilization go from victimization to freedom, it's pretty simple in a way. The victimization is when we're feeling as if we're at the mercy of others, right? That there's something outside of us that we have to blame or complain about. And actually, those are the repressive and the reactive natures of this gene key, is complaining, the person who's complaining all the time, or the person who's blaming all the time. Those are both, they're all victim consciousness, right? And the people who are feeling like they're the victims are not feeling free. They're not feeling free at all. And you can see that in a lot of the dialogue that's going on right now. The narrative that's going on is about freedom or lack of freedom. And those people are feeling like victims. And really, if you can rise above that and feel as if there is freedom and that you're not at the mercy of, whether it's the government or the medical establishment or any other establishment that's out there, the educational, right? Schools, people are feeling very put upon because of what schools are saying, what the government's saying, what their doctors are saying. And if you can move above it and feel as if you're free in whatever choices you make, then there's no victimization. And so the victimization here is really about being at the mercy and feeling as if our joy and our pleasure and our effects are caused outside, that there's a cause outside of us that's creating everything. And, in kind of simplistic gene keys or Richard Rudd or, human design terms, there's nothing outside of you. There's nothing outside of you that matters, really. All that matters is what's inside. And so inside, we get to feel as if we're free and act accordingly. And that's it. It's pretty simple. And so on an energetic level, he says, you truly do always reap what you sow. So again, if you're feeling as if you're the victim inside, that's what you're going to sow. If you're feeling as if you're taken advantage of, as if you're at the mercy of illness, as if you're at the mercy of things that are happening to you and about you, that's not where it comes from. It comes from inside. We can be nice because people are nice to us, or we can be nice because we feel the joy inside and we want to spread that joy. It's a very simple, in a way, dichotomy that really goes against what a lot of people think, but we're definitely moving away from that. We're going through this great change. We're going through this evolutionary process. And the more we can all know that the victimization is gone, we don't have to be at the mercy of anything. We are who we are. We have our own values, and we can act upon those values. And as a result, create our own freedom. That's where we want to be. That's the great change. That's the evolution that's occurring. And he talks about it as involution and evolution. And we basically, with the gene key 55, he talks about this as, now let me get this straight and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong next time, but the involution is going from spirit, because it's actually the out breath, right? And I'm hearing this from a number of people. So it's not just Richard Rudd or human design. A lot of people are saying this. We're in this involution, evolution period, the involution being the out breath, the evolution being the in breath. With our thoughts and feelings and actions, we can be the involution that goes from spirit to matter and creates in the world. And with the evolution, it all comes back to us. And that's where we reap what we sow, right? You're kind to someone with the involution, the out breath, and then with the in breath, that comes back to you. And again, it's a simple One of my somebody I pay attention to, Patricia Cota-Robles, calls it the law of the circle. Richard calls it one of the laws also. And it's all about the gene key 55. Well, the gene key 55 is actually that involution, the spirit to matter. And the evolution is the gene key 22, which is matter to spirit, right? So we're the spirit. We have our out breath as the involution. We do or say or think whatever we're thinking, and then it comes back to us. And it comes back to us as from matter to spirit. And so it's the law of the circle. It just keeps going round and round. And, if you're thinking about it, right, if we're going to go a little bit further, the more we think, the good thoughts, the healthy thoughts, the loving thoughts, the positive thoughts, the more those will come back to us. And really, it doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be every thought every day. We're not possible. It's just not possible. But the more and more you can do that, the better you'll feel, the better the world will be, right? We each have and that's another thing. We're not here to be at the mercy of everyone else. You are here as a unique, energetic pattern of light that's here to make a difference. And that pattern of light is unique for everybody. And I call it human design. Other people call it other things. Your human design is your own energetic, electric pattern, light pattern. Think of it as your light pattern. You're a light pattern. And you get to decide how that's going to play out in the world. But we each have a unique purpose. And so the lighter you are, the more positive you are, the more kind and loving you are, and the more those ideas are coming back to you, those thoughts and feelings are coming back to you, the better you'll feel. And so it's up to us. It's up to each of us. He also says that awareness is the connective tissue between organisms. And so that's that awareness going out, right? And the more, and I'll just talk about the loving and positive parts of it, what the other side is. But that awareness on a positive way is the connective tissue between all organisms. And then he also says that between 2012 and 2027, because he goes through an entire timeline of what's going on and how the changes are occurring and how we're all basically awakening. And I don't think of it as woke. I think of it as awakening because we all are coming to an awakening about who we are as spirit, who we are as human beings, and who we are here to be. So between 2012 and 2027, he says, a core awakening fractal of humanity will lay the foundations of a new world that will reshape this planet from the inside out. And so I find that very, positive and uplifting, and certainly a lot more reassuring, and certainly a lot more reassuring than the news or what we're hearing that's going on in the world. So I hope you do too. So here are some personalities that were born in the Sun Gate 55. So as I said, these are Sleeping Phoenix, Moods, and Spirit. A lot of people who took their spirituality to the next level, so to speak, right? Leaders, politicians, leaders like a Steve Jobs, Gloria Vanderbilt, Drew Barrymore, Kurt Cobain, W.E.B. Du Bois. I actually have a quote from him. It's his birthday today. Cindy Crawford, Sidney Poitier, obviously a leader in his time as an actor and a civil rights activist. Smokey Robinson, Copernicus, George Harrison, quietly, spiritually driving. I mean, when you think about it, he was the one Beatle who brought the others to India. So, and he was the projector. That was kind of interesting. And here's a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois. We should measure the prosperity of a nature not by the number of millionaires, but by the absence of poverty, the prevalence of health, the efficiency of the public schools, and the number of people who can and do read worthwhile books. Again, very appropriate during this time of book banning and really thinking about the spiritual abundance not being, wealth in a material sense, although it can be, but you don't need to have a yacht or a fancy car or a big mansion to be spiritually abundant. Obviously, you need to be, you would want to be someone who could have the money, but also work to have the absence of poverty and health and health and things like that. So there are a number of things that happened this week in history, of course. February 19th, Dr. Lane of Princeton estimated the Earth's age at 1 billion years. That was in 1926. So that was kind of unusual in those days. 1792, the U.S. Postal Service was created on February 20th, and Woodrow Wilson opened the Panama Pacific Expo in San Francisco to celebrate the opening of the Panama Canal, which was amazing. I didn't realize it opened in 1915. That's a long time ago, over 100 years ago. And in 1962, Mercury astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. So that was the beginning of our space program. In 1885, the Washington Monument was dedicated. In 1965, on February 21st, Malcolm X was assassinated in front of 400 people in New York City. In 1972, Richard Nixon arrived in Beijing, China, ironically, becoming the first U.S. president to visit a country not diplomatically recognized by the U.S. at that point. Ironically, we're just about to end the Olympics this weekend in Beijing, China. And so we've come a long way since then. In 1954, mass inoculation began as Salk's polio vaccine is given to children for the first time. So there was really quite a few people who had polio, and it had become quite an epidemic during the early 50s. And in 1928, on February 24th, the New Gallery of New York exhibits works of Archibald Motley, its first show to feature a Black artist. It's a good week to think about your own spiritual abundance, to think about the abundance in your life, the spirituality in your life, and to see how they intertwine. A number of my clients say that they have a job and they have their spiritual practice. What parts of you could possibly be intertwined so that your spiritual practice is reflected in your day job, right? Or your career? Or how could your current career be reflected in your spiritual practice? And how can you find a way to really meld the two so that you could either find a new job or make a difference in the place where you are? There's nothing really stopping us anymore, I think, from having a more spiritual take on the job we have. This great resignation is not happening for nothing. People are leaving, people are retiring, people are going away because they don't feel the spirituality at their places of work, because there's no soul, basically, in those places of work. And wouldn't it be nice if we could bring a little more soul, a little more spirit to where you work, to where you spend a lot of your time, whether it's remotely or in the office, you're still spending a lot of time with those people. And wouldn't it be nice to bring your spiritual practice into that? I know you have a spiritual practice. You wouldn't be listening to me if you didn't. And so if you can find a way to somehow bring that in little by little, baby steps, right? It doesn't have to be all at once. You don't have to come in with cape flying, but you can do it slowly, quietly, softly if you need to, but you can bring that spirituality into the workplace, and it would certainly help all of us if you did that. So think about that this week and have a great week. Think about what's going on with people around you too. How open are they to spirituality? How open are they to changing the world little by little? So have a wonderful week, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Be well.